Did you know that 1.1% of all Americans, which is about 3 million people, suffer from a peanut allergy? Well, if you are not a part of that 1.1%, then you can enjoy this cookie recipe. My name's Andrew, and today I'm going to be demonstrating to you how to make monster cookies. Monster cookies are a peanut butter and an oat-based cookie. First, before we get started with combining our ingredients and baking, we need to do a few things beforehand. First, I like to have all of my spoons and utensils and cups and such out and ready to use, just so I don't have to keep grabbing in a cabinet to grab something as I need it. It just makes it more organized for me. Secondly, I also have all of my ingredients pre-portioned behind me here. You don't have to pre-portion them, I'm just doing that for time reasons. And then third, you're going to want to preheat your oven to 350 degrees, which I've also already done, just to make sure that it's ready when I need it. So now let's get to making our cookies. First, the first ingredient is 4 eggs. So I've cracked 4 eggs into a separate bowl here, and we're going to put them into our mixing bowl. And after your eggs comes the brown sugar. The recipe calls for 1 2/3 cups of brown sugar. So I have my 1 cup here, and I have 2/3 of a cup here. Now for your regular white sugar, the recipe calls for 1 cup, as well as 1/3 of a cup. So 1 1/3 cup of white sugar, just a little bit less than the brown sugar. Now I'm going to incorporate this, I'm going to stir this up before we get to some of the other ingredients. The next ingredient is vanilla. You're going to want about a teaspoon of vanilla. Well, exactly 1 teaspoon of vanilla. After your vanilla is 1 teaspoon of maple syrup. And I have a little spatula here to help me get it out, just so I make sure I get that whole teaspoon. Okay. Now, after the syrup is baking soda. The recipe calls for 2/3 of a teaspoon of, 2 2/3 of a teaspoon of baking soda. My apologies. 2 2/3 of a teaspoon of baking soda. And now comes some of the bigger, more thicker ingredients. Now we have 2/3 of a cup of butter. You can use margarine if you like, but we like to use real butter. It's 1 whole stick and then about 1/3 of another stick. So I'll be back after I incorporate that butter. So I've gotten all of my butter mostly incorporated in, and the next ingredient is 1 pound of peanut butter, which is about 1 whole regular jar. This is a brand new jar, I just opened it today, and I'm going to empty it and incorporate it all into our mixing bowl. And I'll be right back once I have done that. Okay, so I have fully incorporated my peanut butter now, and now we're ready for the star of the show, which is the oats. The recipe calls for about 6 cups of oats. And I bought this container right here, and it's almost exactly 6 cups. It's a little bit more, but I just went ahead and left it in there. So I like to slowly incorporate these in, so I'll put about, that much in or so. So I still got about half of it or a little more than half of it left. And I'm going to incorporate this in. If you don't gradually do it, it gets really thick really fast and then it gets really hard to stir. So I will be back after I incorporate all of my oats. Okay, so I've gotten all 6 cups of my oats mixed in. The batter should begin to look something like this. And now we have just 2 more ingredients, which are my 2 personal favorite ones. So we have chocolate chips left and M&Ms. The recipe calls for about 1/3 of a pound. I'm just going to eyeball it just because I didn't have a proper measuring tool for 1/3 of a pound. But it's really personal preference how much you want in there. If you want more M&Ms, then you can put more M&Ms. If you want more chocolate chips, you can put more chocolate chips. I'm just going to do about equal parts of both and stir it in, and we'll go from there. So I'll be back once I have my M&Ms and chocolate chips incorporated. Okay, so we have officially incorporated all of the necessary ingredients for monster cookies. I have my M&Ms and chocolate chips all incorporated, and now the last step is to use a cookie scooper and just scoop them onto your cookie sheets. It helps if once you scoop it onto the tray, you use a metal spoon to flatten it. This just has other cookie batter on it. To flatten it just to help give it some shape, and I'm going to repeat that process until my batter is gone. I'll be right back. Okay, my first cookie sheet is filled and I have flattened all my cookies. This recipe does make about 5 dozen cookies, so it will take more than 1 round of 12 minutes to bake all of them, so you want to prep for that time as well. So my first batch is going to go in the oven for about 12 minutes at our preheated oven at 350 degrees. You can cook it for a little bit longer if you like a more crunchier cookie, but 12 minutes is about what usually does it for the perfect cookie. And I will be back when my first batch is done. Okay, so my first batch of cookies are done, and I actually cooked them for about 14 and a half minutes because we want this kind of perfect golden brown color like we see here. And now there's only one step left. We just take our spatula and move them from the cookie sheet onto a cooling rack to let them cool. And after that, they're ready to eat. And I hope you enjoyed this cookie demonstration and enjoy the cookies.